Well, hello there, fellow streakers. This is a special edition of our streaking podcast. I have a very special guest on with me today. Jamie's not on with me today, but she'll be joining us on a different podcast a little bit later on. She's getting the kids registered for school. That's right. We've just moved and she is getting all of that taken care of. But in the interim, I have the distinguished opportunity to welcome a special guest to the streaking podcast, and that is Abbey Cook. Abbey, how are you today?
I'm great. How about you, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me today. The reason I've asked Abbey to be with me is she is a streaker of quite some time now and has some original streaks that I thought might be fun to explore. As you know, in all of our streakers out there, we'll often have streakers on that have had a significant impact on not only, what they've been in their profession, but also in their personal lives and everything else. For example, we had Mari on, who was a school teacher that applied streaking to her 5th grade class. And we had huge response to that. A lot of people looking at that and saying what a great thing it was. Because Abbey, you were once a math teacher, true?
Yes, I was.
And so interestingly enough, Mari, their streak as a class was to do at least one math fact daily.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, we encouraged this last week, my 9-year-old to start that streak. So it definitely resonated with me. So
that's great. Cause you were once as a math teacher. Let's just segue there for just a second. What is it about that in your view? I mean, drawing back on your days of teaching, why is that so important? What does that consistency bring about?
Yeah, I think that in terms of the multiplication facts, that's the one that we were working on this week. But when you look at the patterning of multiplication facts and how that consistency and the repetition of just knowing your facts can then apply to so many different places in the world and also in the classroom, as we're out shopping for the family back to school resources, to be able to do the math in your head of, okay, if this is 30% off, how do we get that total price? And it transcends the classroom. It gives them life skills that are applicable, outside of just, hey, I know my multiplication facts. So the foundation is just crucial.
And as I think about that, something that you just said, the confidence that's got to have for an individual, especially for a young man, young woman, or a child that is progressing, to be able to do some of that information inside of their head, that's got to add to your confidence and your own self-credibility.
For sure. Yeah. And to do it fast and to do it right. And, it's getting over that hurdle. We'll do an Olympics reference, right? Like it's just moving over the hurdle gracefully.
Yeah.
And some kids will really get tripped up by a fact. And once you've consistently chosen to practice, it's something we can all do, right?
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's go through your streaking journey, because you've had quite the journey. You and I started talking about streaking, probably about a year and a half ago or something like that. Do you remember what it was that brought about the conversation? Did I just bring it up? I mean, a lot of times I do, but I don't remember exactly. Do you?
I don't know if I mentioned, I sometimes have my little pot of vitamins on my desk. I don't know if I saw them and I was like, oh no, I forgot to take my vitamins. And you're like, hey, I have something that might help you remember. And I think it was about my vitamins.
You're right. Now I remember, because you had said something about, boy, I've got to get better at taking these. I've got to do it. And so I said, well, it's interesting that you should say that, because my wife and I have written a book that's called Streaking. And do you remember what your first initial response was, or how you thought about streaking when I first brought it to you?
I think it's similar. I've mentioned streaking to quite a few people since. And I think a lot of people have the same response. Like, it's something so easy, I should just do it. I shouldn't need a methodology, or I shouldn't need a reminder to do this. Like, it's vitamins, for goodness sakes. Right. And I think my initial thought was like that I wasn't good enough for something, like that it was an inadequacy. But then I got to this place of like, no, I have resources and tools that help me every day with other things. Like, why not put this into play? And I think that whole transition in my head was about 60 seconds long. I don't think that I stewed on it too long. Like, I was like,
it was a full 60 seconds.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you have me. And then 309 days later, here we are. Right. Like,
wow, 309 days. So that is the vitamin. So take it. And what is the exact streak there?
At least 4 vitamins daily. And
Okay.
that might sound like a lot to some people, but I was at a place in my health journey that I was needing to take approximately 28
Wow.
supplements a day.
Wow.
When you add up
Wow.
the
Now,
medicine, the 2
did that
prescription.
include, yeah, prescription medication as
Yeah.
well as vitamins? Okay.
Yeah. So I include those. So like I take a thyroid medicine so that my thyroid can keep going. And that's at the time it was 4 of those a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. And that alone, I thought if I could just get my thyroid medicine taken every day, I would win.
Right.
And
Right.
so that was kind of the intent behind 4.
Yeah.
And then there was like 24 more, right? And if I got them, great. But if I could just take this one medicine every day,
Yeah. So let's go.
that was my thought.
That's awesome. So let's go back just a little bit. Let me give a little bit of
Yep.
an introduction to Abbey. I didn't do her justice. She's a she's a phenomenal wife, mother, professional. She has been, as you've heard, a teacher. She was a math
Yep.
teacher, and 8th grade math is what,
Yep.
or 8th graders. Absolutely. She's where did you graduate from, Abbey? What was your university of choice?
Yeah, I went to Bethel College, which it's now Bethel University in Mishawaka, Indiana. So a strong teachers college.
Wonderful.
Grew up in Northern Indiana. And then after I graduated college, my husband and I moved to the Indianapolis area so that I could start my teaching career. So
Wonderful. Have
yeah.
2 children and
Yeah.
enjoying those 2 children as they're growing up and having all kinds of, and what are the ages of your children?
Yeah, Nora is 11 and Lorelai is 9.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And today you are a sales professional, and that's what you do
Yeah.
in your professional life. So you've got your personal professional life, and your husband is a tennis pro. Is that right?
Yes, he is a tennis teaching pro for sure.
Awesome. That's so fantastic.
He also dabbles in pickleball. So
I was just going to say,
pickleball, you should try.
Yeah, I think I saw something on YouTube the other day. It was the World Pickleball Championship or something like that. It is fascinating. I mean, this is like something that's taken the world by storm.
Correct. Yeah, it started in the US, and so, we have a very strong following in the United States, and it's kind of like a hybrid of tennis and ping pong.
Okay.
So
Pickleball. There you go. If you haven't had it, go out there and give it a try. Look at it on YouTube. It is quite fascinating to watch it.
Yeah.
You can play it singles or doubles.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So back to streaking. So that's Abbey. And Abbey and I started to talk about streaking. And I do remember it was in relation to, you had mentioned that, you weren't taking your vitamins, or you needed to take them consistently. And so I introduced the streaking concept to you. We were talking and said, look, streaking is simply this: pick something that's laughably simple, keep a record that you've been doing it, and create a community around it. If you do those 3 things, you'll be able to be successful. Now, what's happened since then has been quite phenomenal. In fact, we've featured a little bit of what some of the successes that you've had in some of our blog posts and so forth. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today. So let's go back though to a little bit. Give us a little bit of generality, or how much ever you're comfortable with, as far as what was it about what was it that prevented you, if you will, and prevent may not be the right word, from taking the vitamins and also the prescription medication that you needed? And and then secondarily, how did streaking help you get past that?
Yeah. So this is gonna, your listeners might laugh at this, but I really stink at taking medicine. Not like, first of all, the reminder of it, the remembering, I've bought the pill container where you put them all in for the week, and that wasn't bringing me consistency. But the actual swallowing of pills, I'm terrible at it, Jeff. I'm just terrible. Okay. So then it was like this mind over matter thing every time I would take my medicine, and I would even cough some up, and it was just terrible. But the thing that kind of grabbed me, or the hurdle, is if I just have a checkoff list, or if I just know, like, I only have to take 4, I don't have to take 28. It was this mind hurdle for me of, okay, that's doable. I got this. No problem. So, it's twofold. It was the absent-mindedness. I knew I needed to do it. It wasn't trying to sell me on, hey, you should take this medicine. I knew that was needed, but it was the, oh shoot, it's time for bed. And I've already forgotten today, the morning and the evening dose.
Yeah. No kidding.
And it was just the forgetfulness of it, life, the whirlwind, as we talk about often. Yeah. But it was just also the mental block of sitting there and like, okay, do I need to do a deep breathing exercise before I swallow these 8 pills? So, but no, streaking really came alongside, and it made me change my paradigm of I only have to take 4 today. But then I always took more. Like I never just, I mean, occasionally I've just taken the 4. Yeah. But for the most part, I'll just take the whole little container, or there might be 6 in there, or there might be,
Doesn't that just blow your mind? It always blows my mind that's the case as far as human behavior is concerned, because I look at human behavior, you've got this thing that you need to do, it's good for you, it's something that will help you in the long run. You know and understand this. I had a friend that suffered a heart attack, and he knew that he had to change his diet in order to not suffer another heart attack, or in other words, come close to dying. Yet in about 3, maybe 6 months after his heart attack, right back on the same diet, right back doing the same things that he had done before. And when I talked to him, he's like, I know. And you kind of beat yourself up. You're like, I know I need to do this. But when you change the mindset from I need to do this thing to I wonder how long I can do this laughably simple thing. Yeah. It changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. I had a customer last week say something that's kind of just stuck with me for a couple of weeks. And they said, we're just too busy to get those kind of results. And I was like, wow, you said it out loud, but that's what we're all thinking, right? Like, I'm just too busy to do something different, or, oh, that can't work for me. I've got this, and this. But I think that when we pull back and exactly like you guys teach, make it laughably simple, it creates this drive that we didn't know we had before.
Yeah, it's kind of, but one of the ways I like to describe it is it sets up a floor for you to stand on, so that that, hey, at least I'm going to do these 4 particular, and what are they? A mix of prescription medication with vitamins? Is that
the one prescription, and then the rest are vitamins? Yeah,
vitamins.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read something to you. It's rather interesting. You ready for this?
Okay. Yeah.
This is from a paper or a study that was done. It's called Medication Adherence. Who cares? Now, who is the World Health Organization? Who cares with a question mark, but that's who cares. So here's the abstract. Now listen to this. The treatment of chronic illnesses commonly includes the long-term use of pharmacotherapy. So using, like what you're saying, the pharmacy or pharmacotherapy. Although these medications are effective in combating disease, their full benefits are often not realized because approximately 50% of patients do not take their medications as prescribed. Mm-hmm. Does that just absolutely blow you away?
No. And let me tell you why.
Yeah. Tell me why.
I was about 200 days in to streaking, right? Yeah. 200 days of taking at least 4 daily. I go to a checkup to my doctor, and she says, Abbey, I can move your thyroid medicine dose back from 4 pills a day to 2. And I said, why do you think that is, doctor? And she said, I don't know. I can't quite figure out why all of a sudden your labs are showing you're absorbing at a higher rate. And I said, well, I can tell you why, doctor. It's called streaking. I showed her the app, and she's like, wow, this could really change things, because as doctors, sometimes they have to dose you in a way that you can still get the amount you need. So essentially, she was able to pull back on my dose because I was actually taking it, not because I truly needed the dose of 4 a day.
Wow.
And so this idea, I am excited to hear there's a whole paper on it, a study of patient adherence, because that's what I experienced. Not only did I get to pull back on my dose because I was taking it, but I also get to save half as much money on a prescription drug this year. So it just affects you in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely phenomenal. I'm right now, I'm blown away that you said that to your doctor and the doctor's like streaking. That's because again, just to reemphasize, it just changes the mindset from what am I doing? Oh, I've got to swallow these pills. I've got to be on this medication. I've got to do these things, to saying, I wonder how many days in a row I can string together my medication adherence.
Yeah.
I mean, it just changes everything. One more little, we'll stick on this for just one more minute.
Yeah.
All right. Listen to this. In 2003 report, in its 2003 report on medication adherence, the World Health Organization, WHO, quoted the statement by Haynes et al. That's a study that was done that, quote, increasing the effectiveness of adherence interventions may have a far greater impact on the health of the population than any improvement in specific medical treatments. Among patients with chronic illness, approximately 50% do not take medications as prescribed. This poor adherence to medication leads to increased morbidity and death, and is estimated to incur costs of approximately, you ready for this?
Yeah.
100 billion per year.
Mm-hmm.
Billion with a B. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
I just look at this report and then I hear what you're saying and think about, just the opportunity for individuals who are out there to say, I'm going to start streaking my medication adherence. I've got a chronic illness. I've got something I need to take care of. You were able to move back your thyroid or the doctor was able to move back your thyroid medication because of your consistency. In other words, behaviorally, you had changed. And the doctor then was able to say, Abbey, because you behaviorally have changed, which means, so let's look at it this way. If you're taking less medication, you're not paying for as much medication.
Correct. Yeah.
Blows me away. I'm just flabbergasted here. I don't know what to say.
And you can, I think the options in terms of health with streaking are endless. And I've shared with you before, Jeff, but my youngest daughter, Lorelai.
Yeah. Tell me about that. I wanted to ask about your kids and streaking, because I'm sure you've applied it there.
She's 9 years old and she's a cross country runner, right? She loves to run. She's thought about different streaks for running, and whether it's just putting on the sneakers every day or whether it's, making sure she runs a mile a day. We're still narrowing in the focus there. However, she also is diabetic. She is a type 2 diabetic. And so type 2 is the one that you can control with exercise and movement, right? Like with good eating habits and exercise. And so, in terms of a diabetic, one of the keys is to stay on your blood sugar to make sure you know where it's at and what you can do to either fuel or pull back your blood sugar. And so I think of the diabetic that, checking your blood sugar at least once daily, or, something that's laughably simple, but there's a direct correlation to long-term success. Yeah. And so we just had Lorelai's year checkup this week, and she was cheering in the doctor's office because she got what's called a unicorn. So in the world of diabetes, if you get a 100 on your blood sugar reading, it's called a unicorn. Like, yes, I got a 100. This was great. It wasn't super high. It wasn't super low. It was right there where it needed to be. And so I just think about how it could be so beneficial to those who are diabetic and testing their sugar, or eating at least one, protein meal a day, or looking at just all the different options that could help in terms of medicine that way too.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So as you look at it then, looking at medication adherence is one part of it, but you have streaks in other areas as well. I mean, that's it. Cause that's one of the things that, Jamie and I recognized early on, is that streaks often are applied physically, which this is a great physical application. However, there's so much more opportunity as well within the other areas of your life, such as professional development, such as, your personal relationships, as well as some of the relationships that you have in a spiritual realm. So if you wouldn't mind, share with us some of the other streaks that you also have, Abbey.
Yeah, I have one streak that's to be at peace in my home. And so one of the things I realized during the pandemic was we had a lot of items in our home that we had no need for. They were just taking up space and causing stress. And so it's kind of like an organization streak, but I like to remove at least one item daily from my home. It could be junk mail. It could be a toy that no one plays with. It could be a pair of blue jeans that don't fit anymore. But the idea of
They were just
removing
too
at
big,
least
right?
one
The blue
item,
jeans were just too big. You had to get rid
you
of those and
know,
get a smaller pair, huh?
for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Pandemic, that's definitely what happened. No, I'm just kidding. But in terms of, we are pointing this at who do you want to be?
Hmm.
And I want to be at peace in my home. And so my thought process of this was, how do I get to that at peace in my home? Because, I think that a lot of times we lose sight and the gratefulness of what we have, but how can I shine a light there and make sure that I'm consistently choosing to be at peace in my home?
Absolutely love that. So the B statement there was, I want to be at peace in my home. And the streak was, I'm going to remove at least one thing from my home daily.
Yeah. Yes.
That is fascinating to me as well, because what that then does is it makes, and I'm going to make some suppositions here and you tell me if I'm wrong, but if I had that streak, which I don't, but something that I might want to consider, if I had that streak on a daily basis, I would be thinking of what is cluttering my home or even just my surroundings that I want to remove that will help bring just a little bit of peace to me. And I mean, that kind of conscious effort would just be, I don't know, that's very attractive. It's something that I see as so doable as well. I mean, how easy is that to be able to just laughably simple, just remove something, like you said, a piece of junk mail, and then be at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty easy to do one, right? But then what I find is I'll have a box, a paper box or like a cardboard box. And at the end of the week, I will, if there are donate items, I'll keep the box handy, like in the mudroom or someplace where we can have access to it. But then to be able to donate it and physically give it away at the end of the week, I find that I don't just remove one item. I remove, like on the weekend, sometimes there'll be a whole box of things that I'm like, why is this here? And so it's also, you just helped us, make sure that we're doing it.
Let me ask you this. Does it also help with deciding what to bring into your home? Has that been one of the ancillary benefits or one of the things, just out of curiosity, or is it still just in the realm of removing?
I think we're still in the place of removing. I think that it also has, I started saying to our daughters, like, hey, if you want that new toy, we'll need to give one away or we'll need to swap it out. And they've been a little bit more, they've thought about that a little bit, like, oh yeah, we do have a lot more than we need and maybe we should be mindful. But Jeff, as you and I are speaking right now, I believe that the girls are off garage selling with grandma. So maybe I'm completely off base here. So we'll see.
They're
the true test is when they
yeah.
come back into that front door, what they have in their hands. So
yeah. I love it. Again, another streak that laughably simple, it puts it at, I want to be at peace in my home. Share with us a couple more. What else do you have on your streaking list?
Yeah, I have a sales streak. So a professional streak that, a team streak, right? Where I am reaching out to at least one new contact daily. So in the world that we live in, one, totally doable. And I think that when I've shared this one with other people, they kind of poke fun, like, oh, just one. And I'm like, yeah, just one to start with, but you never know. I mean, some days you get to one and some days you do 10. So, one a day. So I think we're 13 weeks strong on that one.
Yes, we are. That's awesome.
Let's see. I have another streak of, eat at least one serving of vegetables daily. So that's my other health streak. Yeah, I'm 68 days. So 68 days in a row. I had this, we have some friends that have a meal planning process that they teach. And one of their ideas is to eat one big giant salad a day. And I don't love salads, if we're being honest. It's just the leaves don't resonate with me. I'm not a huge fan.
Not a leaf eater,
but
huh?
No. But if it's like a salad that has just vegetables in it and not leafy greens necessarily, I'm good. Like I can tackle a bowl of cucumbers or some zucchini or whatever. So I thought, okay, how can I make this vision of at least one big salad a day into something that I can consistently do? And so at least one serving of vegetables a day was my laughably
That's
simple
awesome.
version of it.
So I want to go back to your professional streak for just a second here.
Yeah.
As you talk about so as a sales professional, I mean, contacting people is, it's got to be your bread and butter. That's something that you do. So as far as setting a streak around contacting is it at least one new contact daily, or reaching out to at least one new? And so it's building your base. Is that what it is? So like what you said, and I want to visit this for just a second. There are a lot of people, when they consider streaking and they think about the laughably simple, they look at it from the viewpoint of what you said, which is, why set the bar so low? And I think that one of the things that in our psyche and society is we think about bars, not floors. And let me explain what I mean by this. A bar is something you reach for. And what they're saying is, if the bar is set low, it's really easy to reach for that. But a streak is not about the bar. A streak is about the floor, because if you're going to reach for a bar, you've got to stand on some floor. And so like what you said, if I'm reaching out to at least one new contact daily, and that's my floor, what I'm saying is I will never go beneath that floor. I will always land on that, so that on a particularly difficult day when all of your clients are just causing all kinds of havoc for whatever reasons, and you're just, dealing with the minutia and the whirlwind of activity that's going on, then at the end of the day, you look at it and say, I haven't made my one new contact today. I think it's pretty amazing that people or that sales professionals, it's in this realm, sales professionals will have several days of those go by where they haven't connected with a new person. Yet that's the lifeblood of sales. I mean, is that, give me a few of your thoughts and reactions on that.
No, you're exactly right. I kind of view it as a trampoline more than even a floor. So I don't know if your kids ever go out and play on a trampoline, or,
Absolutely.
you got access to one, but I'll watch the kids go play at the neighbors. And sometimes they lay on the trampoline and look up at the sky. Sometimes they just run around inside of it, but sometimes they jump. A lot of times they jump, right? And I think that the streak is the trampoline. How you use it, it positions you for that leap, for sure. But sometimes the job of the trampoline is to go look at the stars and to lay there and to still be elevated and to still be consistently moving or, playing but if you ask the kids why they go on the trampoline, it's not always to jump.
That is absolutely a metaphor I'm going to steal, Abby. That is awesome, because you know what? It brought back memories of, we had a trampoline in our backyard when we were growing up, and my friends and I, we would go out there, we would have sleepovers on the trampoline. Yeah. And at night, we'd sleep on and we'd look up at the stars, and there's some times where we'd start jumping, and other times, like what you said, we'd be learning to do all kinds of new tricks. The streak is the mat of the trampoline. It is the place where I'm never going to have to go below that. And that will help spring me up into new realms. That, Abby, I'm so excited that we talked today because of that metaphor right there. In fact, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to write a blog post on that particular right there. It's, the streak is the trampoline. And I think the streak is
the trampoline. You're still making the choice to climb onto the trampoline, right? You're still climbing up the ladder.
Yep.
But it's the baseline. It is, the starting point.
And I'm always, I love that. I'm always going to have that trampoline be the thing on which I'm always bouncing, so that when I come back down from trying to reach for something, I always land on the surface of the streak, which is on the mat or the trampoline. Yeah. Phenomenal. Wow. Yeah. That's great. So as you look forward, have you mentioned about the vegetables, and, my wife and I had a long conversation about that once. They said, well, what if you eat just one pea in the day? I'm like, counts. Yeah. You're there. I mean, it's much easier to keep something going than it is to start it over again.
Yeah. And I think that you bring up something, you bring a thought to my mind when you say just one pea. We want to succeed at this, right? We want to be successful. We want to do our best. But I remember a time early in my vitamin streak and I remember texting you about this. We were out of town for my daughter's cross country meet, and I forgot to pack the vitamins. I just forgot. And I was really worried. Like, what if I can't accomplish this streak? Like, I have the intent is there. I want to do it. And you had mentioned like, hey, are there vitamins anywhere? Like the drugstore, you could just go pick up. What can you do? And I had this light bulb moment of, oh, my husband brought his vitamins. I can just take some vitamin C, take a one a day, and still maintain my streak of at least 4 daily. And I think that what it teaches us is that we are actively choosing to be who we want to be.
Yeah.
But we will find a way to make sure that we can continue the success. Or sometimes a streak, you miss it and you start fresh. And that's part of the learning as well. But I was willing to take the men's 1 a day vitamin so that I did not have to miss my streak.
Didn't have to miss it. No. Jim Collins talks about in Good to Great, he talks about the flywheel effect. And the flywheel effect is, a flywheel is a great, big, huge, heavy piece of equipment that is very difficult to get going. It takes thousands of tiny little pushes to get that flywheel going. To keep it going is equally just the tiny little pushes that go along. So for example, with what you said with, I'm going to keep the flywheel of my vitamin taking going through my husband has vitamins. I'm going to take the couple of vitamins that count, that are for the streak, and we'll move this along. That then kept that flywheel going. And what it did for you, I dare say, and I would ask you this, what did it do for your own self-credibility and your self-confidence?
Well, it just made me realize like I can still be successful at this. Yes, I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to let a trip out of town stop this momentum.
That is awesome. Well, as we come up on the close of our streaking podcast, Abby, it's really been wonderful talking with you about all this. Any other streaks that you want to highlight or anything that you would give as far as advice to a beginning streaker, someone who just picked this up for the first time and is like, all right, I'll give it a try. What's to lose here? I'm doubtful it'll work for me, but what do you think? What advice would you give to a beginning streaker?
Well, one of the things that I would tell you, I recently shared streaking with a friend, and she spent a little bit more time in that like worry of what if I can't do it. And my encouragement or my challenge to you would be just pick a streak and do it. I don't overthink it. And I'm saying this out loud because I'm also talking to myself right now, Jeff. As I know, I need to pick my next streak. I have some floating around, but just pick it and go with it. If it's really pointing you towards who you want to be, and it's a consistent conscious habit that you can create, then there's not really a downside to it.
When you talk, and we've mentioned several times here about who you want to be, do you have an active B statement, or is it more just a general knowledge of who you want to be? How have you worked with that?
Yeah, so mine are in categories. I don't have necessarily one total who I want to be, but I want to be a healthy individual so that I can be a good mom, I can be a good wife, and I can be a good salesperson. I want to be at peace in my home. And then I also want to be a high achieving salesperson. So I have different categories of my B statements. Yeah. That is I need to create one statement though, of who I need to be. That's next steps probably, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and it's something we'll talk about a little bit more on a future podcast, because Jamie and I have quite the conversations about this. I think that the holistic B statement is a assemblage of several within those categories. It's the holistic B statement is who I want to be personally, professionally, physically, and spiritually. I was talking with this about someone else and the other day, and they said, well, I would add family as one of those areas as well, personally, professionally, physically, spiritually, and family. And that may be the 5 categories, if you super categories. What I look at as a B statement is what you had articulated so well, is in those categories, who do I want to be? And that could vary from all over the place, but it's really your personal statement of who you want to be. And I think that's wonderful. Yeah. So we're going to talk more about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I would love to keep talking about that.
Well, Abby, thank you so much for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Everyone, Abbey is absolutely phenomenal. If you want to ask her additional questions, please email me at Jeffrey, Jeffery, at streakingmastery.com, and I'll get in touch with her. Unless you want to let them contact you directly, Abbey, I'll give you that option. But I can be the filter. If you want people to ask you a question directly, do you want to give out a contact?
Yeah, you can. Well, you can find me on all the social media platforms, probably LinkedIn, Abbey Cook, or on Instagram, Abbey May Cook. Is my handle. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to share what I've learned, my experience, and keep on streaking.
All right. Yeah, everyone. Until we talk again, keep streaking.
A better you.